Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Huda London. I'd like to start by giving my deepest condolence to Nicola Bulley, his family, daughters, and I'd like to say, sadly, this is not the conclusion we expected. I can see thousands of people are disappointed with the results from the inquest, especially Paul Ansell's statements in the inquest. They do not match to what he said in his interview. But for the respect of Nicola Jane Bulley's parents and daughters, I've decided to let faith take over. I believe God Almighty has a way of getting justice for people on earth and in the heavens. And a very good example is that, thank God, God exposed the autopsy results as Nicola Jane Bulley was not intoxicated. That is what we exactly were fighting for. We wanted to clear Nicola Bulley's name of all these speculations and rumors that were going around, and that we actually got most of them from the police press conference, and they got it from Nicola's family, that's Paul. It's a tragedy, it's heartbreaking that a young mother lost her life and couldn't be found for 23 days. I was actually thinking about it last night. Could the number 23 on the bench be related to 2023? And I've checked the bench. If you go on Google even and check the bench before this incident, the number 23 wasn't on the bench. So this had something to do with January 23. Nicola got reported missing the first month of the year. Let's not forget that. So I believe the bench has more to do with 2023. And I think the best way I would like to end Nicola Bulley's case on is by playing this clip. And a bit more, giving us a breakdown from a former superintendent in the Metropolitan Police in London, and she explains what she believes was the mistakes.
Police have some really difficult questions to answer. It's time now for an independent inquiry. This is about regaining what they've lost, which is trust and confidence. My name is Nusrat Mehta. I'm a former Met superintendent. Well, it's real tragic, isn't it, that there were 3 searches and nothing was found, including a private search company, but they weren't given all the information about the vulnerabilities. Had they been given that information, maybe the result would have been different. They would have increased their parameters, they would have searched underneath the read. So it could have resulted in something more different, and giving that information out would have assisted the investigation. It's not about mistakes or criticism, it's about future learning. I know a lot of people become defensive and come out and say that the police have done Lancashire police have done a really good job. They have done a really good job. However, there are certain concerns, to the point that the Prime Minister, Home Secretary and the Commissioner for the Information have all commented on this. Their communication strategy. They held a press conference when she first went missing on the 27th. Then on the 3rd of February, they were asked a direct question about vulnerabilities. They said there wasn't any. They talked about a hypothesis, which was that she'd walked or fallen into the river. Police have a multiple hypotheses until one is proven, and they have a working hypothesis. So they could have handled that well in terms of what they said, because when they gave the first hypothesis, it just fueled more speculation. Secondly is their messaging. The level of detail or lack of detail in the messaging, that really has to be looked at. Third thing I would say is the relationship with the media, in terms of how they interacted with the media, what information they gave the media, and how they could have had a better relationship. In that point is also about social media, because it seems to me that they didn't really grip what was going on social media. In any investigation, there's always a media strategy, including keeping an overview of social media.
Sure.
But in this particular case, I feel that social media kind of dictated where the investigation went, and it seems like it was perhaps derailed because they didn't manage that very well. I think it's in crisis. I think trust and confidence has really been knocked over what we've seen with Wayne Couzens, with Carrick, and different stories coming out. And I think, particularly the Met is in particularly bad state because they're in special measures. A lot more work needs to be done in reassuring the communities in terms of how we move forward. So I think the trust and confidence really has to be built again, and it starts with not being defensive. This isn't about attacking the police. This is about building trust and confidence. This is about learning and embedding lessons that come out of the case of Nicola, Bulley, and other cases to be able to move forward really positively. My heart goes out to the family. What must they be feeling? And somewhere along the line, I think, the family got lost in this. There's so much derailment of this. And I think everybody, the media, the public and the police can learn from this. How must the family be feeling with everything that's gone on, from releasing that information, which I believe was released with the family's consent. But still, there's a family in the middle of this. There's 2 little girls in the middle of this. Lancashire police have some really difficult questions to answer, and they can't be defensive about it. They have to be open and transparent and actually deal with that criticism. In terms of missing the body or not finding Nicola sooner, I think that that's going to have to take real scrutiny. It's time now for an independent inquiry, and that independent inquiry should look at absolutely every aspect of this. I know Lancashire police are doing their own review, but I think that review really is marking your own homework, and that review won't increase trust and confidence. This is about regaining what they've lost, which is trust and confidence. So for me, an independent review, and the lessons need to be embedded.
Former police crime commissioner and indeed senior detective with Sussex Police in the Sarah Payne inquiry, joining us once more. Martin, thank you for your time. One reflects now, with all the politicians joining in the discussion on this, it's going to be perhaps less than helpful for Lancashire Police.
Yes, of course our thoughts go to Nicola's family and friends, but you're right, this is unhelpful for Lancashire Police. And of course, we now know, or we're pretty sure that this is Nicola in the river. I think what Keir Starmer's just said is true. It's something I've been saying for 2 weeks. There are questionable decisions that have been made in this case, but they may well be justifiable. And actually, we do need an external force to review the investigation, the media strategy, which has attracted most attention, the TikTok detectives that we've never seen before. And now, of course, the question's being asked about how was Nicola missed in the river. Bearing in mind, it wasn't a tidal river, it wasn't flowing that fast. People are a bit surprised that she suddenly been found less than a mile from where she went missing. So there are quite a few questions, and Lancashire Police are under the spotlight.
And just to bring up that issue of TikTok, social media, and the media involvement itself, of course, when you were involved in the Sarah Payne investigation, social media not as prevalent and certainly not as aggressive, but you still had to have a relationship with the media. And in those days, I guess there was a conduit, if you like, between detectives and reporters, so that they were aware of some information, even though they were asked not to put it into the public domain.
Yes, it's interesting how the Leveson inquiry is suddenly featured in today's news. A lot of police officers are arguing that since Leveson, they don't contact the press as much as they used to, and the relationship doesn't exist. Arguably, the press should be independent from the police. So there's two sides to that argument, Mark.
Yeah.
But the point is, the TikTok detectives, and I have said this for a while, they filled the landscape. They made the noise because the police didn't. The police should have owned that landscape. They should have been doing press briefings every day. Because they didn't, social media, some toxic social media, and TikTok detectives took over. And my worry is that policing UK now has to deal with this template the next time we have a high-profile missing person. So I totally support Keir Starmer around the Home Secretary in saying we do need to learn the lessons. And actually, I'm not convinced the IOPC is the right body. It needs an external force. Metropolitan Police have already offered to help to review this in a completely objective way and let the Bulley family grieve the tragic loss of Nicola.
Her own ribbon of hope to the bridge here, Nicola's next-door neighbour and friend, Charlotte, adding her voice to calls for the investigation to be broadened out.
It's just this never-ending turmoil of where are you? You know, and to have to think how you answer that to your own children, never mind to obviously Paul and Nikki's children. It's just an endless torment each day of hoping for something. So in my opinion, we just need all the lines of inquiries expanding, everywhere searching, you know, ground and water.
For Nicola's family and friends, the river just isn't the answer. They can't accept what the police call their working hypothesis that she might have fallen in while walking her dog, Willow.
As soon as obviously the news was in that we think she's in the river, I think a lot of us looked at each other like, well, how and where? Which part? The part by the bench? Because there's a bench there for a reason that you can sit there. It's astonishing if you manage to fall in from there, really.
So has the focus here been wrong? Have opportunities been missed? On the bench where Nicola's phone was found, which was never sealed off, I spoke to a former detective who's surprised by the strategy.
I did expect to see that chair ramped up as a forensic exhibit, or even a tent over the chair to contain the forensic evidence that might be there. But actually they need another force with experienced detectives and experienced search teams to walk in and review what they've done, to reassure the public and the Bulley family that everything that should be done is being done, because I'm not convinced it is.
We may have seen police activity in recent days, but there's been no press conference for a week now, and we've still not heard from the lead detective, the senior investigating officer. What Lancashire Police do say is that there's no evidence of third-party involvement. So if it's not an accident or criminal, could Nicola have chosen to leave?
No one ever knows anybody, do they? But in my opinion, she would never leave Paul and the girls. She would never leave her family. And so we are just left with this mystery that she's almost vanished into thin air.
The ribbons now brighten up this bridge, but the mystery still hasn't changed. 18 days on, we're no closer to any answers. Well, you heard in my report from that former detective who says that he believes another police force should have been brought in by now, given the size and the very high profile of this investigation, to work with Lancashire Police to review their strategy and their decision making. Now, as far as we know, that hasn't happened. Instead, they point out that they're working closely with the National Crime Agency and National Search Advisors, who are getting an overview of this investigation. On that other issue, when it comes to the lead detective, the senior investigating officer, the SIO as they're known, I have to say, to be honest, it is a little bit odd that we haven't heard from the SIO yet in this case. We haven't seen them or heard from them at one of the press conferences. But this morning, speaking to Nicola's friend and next door neighbour Charlotte, she does say that she is supportive of the police, as are the family. But here we are now.
Look at the bus behind the reporter. That bus goes through Garston Road. Why are they appealing for dash cam from cars when the government buses are roaming around? And the bus has the best dash cam. I just thought of it because let's remember, buses stop at each and every bus stop. They don't even hardly give space for any car behind to pass them. So if anyone would have dash cam footages showing Nicola, Bulley, may she rest in peace, on that fateful day, it'll be the buses. UK buses will show it definitely, because they have a couple of dash cam footages. They have different angles, left, right, front, back. All those CCTVs are in front of the bus driver. Then you have the bus cameras on top, since it's a double decker, on the second floor or the first floor, the second floor. And then you have cameras where the bus driver can see everyone for his own safety. How come we didn't see Nicola Bulley that day? And the water under the bridge was so shallow with rocks, so Nicola couldn't have floated to the other side. Although it was freezing cold, she would have sunken. If she floated, she would have got stuck between rocks and all that. I don't believe Nicola Bulley fell in the river, but I will, out of respect, I want her children to grow up knowing that their mother didn't have alcohol issues, and thank God that was exposed. But you heard the former police superintendents and the former inspector of Sussex Police talking and saying things like, why wasn't there forensics on the bench? My question is, why did Paul call 6 times and text saying, Nicola, you lost, before 10 o'clock? Because he said it's usual, it can happen that Nicola comes home by 10:20. She could be talking to Emma, or she could be talking to another dog walker. That's not my words, that's Paul's interview. Read the transcript and watch the interviews. But the bus CCTV dash cams were the best. So I don't understand. There should be an investigation on this case, but I don't decide. It's heartbreaking.
Stretches ahead that you're looking forward to the scene. It's tomorrow morning, a lovely weekend stretches ahead that you're looking forward to spending with the family and friends. Maybe the kids are off playing or watching sport. Possibly your other half is taking the dog for a walk before you go shopping or out for a nice meal together. You might even be meeting your mates later on for a few drinks in town or down the local. The simple day-to-day stuff of just living your life with those you love. Then the unimaginable happens. Your child never comes back from that football match. Your partner fails to return from their dog walking. That friend simply doesn't turn up for your night out. Just running late, you tell yourself, reaching for the mobile. Giving them a quick call though, just in case. The phone goes to voicemail. You leave a jokey message. And then another one. And then a slightly angry one. They don't get back though. That's weird. And suddenly, those first ice-cold fingers of fear start creeping up your spine. What if they've had an accident? Are they lying hurt somewhere in pain and helpless? You try to dismiss the anxiety, telling yourself there's a perfectly logical explanation and you'll hear their key in the door soon. But you don't, and you never do. Not that day, or the next, or the next. And even worse is that no one, not the police, not the people they were with, or anyone else knows what has happened. They have literally vanished into thin air. It's this gut-wrenching hell of confusion and torment that the family of missing mum of two, Nicola Bulley, are now facing. Nicola just took her dog for a walk along a riverbank she has strolled 1,000 times before, a week ago today. She was seen by other regular dog walkers and joined a work conference called All Regular Behaviour. Then she disappeared. Her phone was left on a bench by the side of the river, her dog Willow running loose nearby, no sign of a struggle. She was just gone. If you've ever loved anyone, you can only just begin to understand the hell that her mum, dad, sister and partner are going through 1 week on. The agony etched on their tearful faces as they appealed for Nicola to get in touch was heartbreaking. This has emptied our lives, Dad Ernest said, and never has the word empty carried so much weight. They must feel utterly hollowed out with despair. The dread that Nicola's body will be found, the hope that she will turn up safe and sound, that every waking moment must be consumed with Nicola. Analysing everything she said, everything they said, and everything they did before she disappeared. It's a never-ending torture. The police appear to believe Nicola slipped and fell into the very slow-flowing willow wire and have concentrated searching the water. But they still haven't found anything. It's the not knowing where the true horrors lie. Nicola's partner, Paul Ansell, admits that he keeps playing every scenario around in his head and will never give up hope.
I'm sure Paul must be thinking about it every day. But what I don't understand is it was only 5 days later that he did the interview after Nicola was missing. So how could he forget to mention that he called Nicola 6 times and he texted her once saying, "Are you lost?" I believe that is really important. He should have mentioned that. How come he wasn't searching? I guess there will be questions that always remain. There are rocks, creeks, everything in the river. The Sun magazine, the Sun showed us the recording of the ex-military diver walking with his mobile device in the water, but he just went to near the river top part. After all those areas, there's big stones, and reefs. Nicola couldn't have floated to Rawcliffe Road so quickly.
Stay for 2 weeks to just jog anybody's memory that might have those key bits of information. You can see now the flurry of traffic going on, and this is the key piece of road that we're looking for. So Nikki went into the gate to go on her walk, and there's no footage of that gate, so we're just trying to get dash cam footage. The police have also done number recognition, so people have had letters that we're here to hopefully with.
I've always wondered if Nicola, Bulley and Willow went actually to this part of the water, the Fiddle Neck, and if she was abducted from here. That could have made sense, because nobody would have heard her scream. Rest in peace, Nicola, Bulley. May justice be served someday. Condolence to your family.